His brother saw him coming from half a mile away, and before he even reached them, they had already decided what to do with him. 17 years old, the youngest of Jacob's sons by Rachel, the woman Jacob had loved above every other woman alive, the woman who had died on the road giving birth to Benjamin. Jacob did not even try to hide it. He didn't care. He gave Joseph a coat, ornate, long-sleeved, absurdly colorful, completely useless for fieldwork. It was not clothing. It was a declaration. And his 10 older brothers read that declaration every single morning. They hated him for it. Then came the dreams. Joseph dreamed that he and his brothers were binding sheaves in the field, and his sheaf rose up and stood upright, and all their sheaves gathered around it and bowed down. He told them this out loud to their faces. They did not need a moment to interpret it. Are you going to reign over us? Then came a second dream. The sun, the moon, 11 stars, all bowing down before him. He told his father this time. Even Jacob flinched. Will your mother and I and your brothers actually bow down before you? His brothers were furious, but Jacob said nothing and filed it away. And then one day he sent Joseph north alone to find his brothers near Shechem. Joseph put on the coat and went. He walked into that landscape without fear, without suspicion, without any idea that his brothers had already seen him on the road and were already talking. It was Reuben, the eldest, who stopped them from killing him outright. Not from love, perhaps, but from something older and harder to name. He told them not to shed blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness, he said. Leave him there, but do not lay a hand on him. His private plan, the text reveals, was to come back later and pull Joseph out and return him safely to their father. The others listened and agreed. When Joseph reached them, they grabbed him without a word. They stripped the coat from his back, that coat, and they threw him down into an empty cistern cut into the rock. No water, just darkness and stone, and the sound of his own voice echoing back at him. Then they sat down on the ground nearby and ate bread. Joseph was in the pit below them, calling out to them. We know this because years later, in a moment of overwhelming crisis, the brothers would say to each other, we saw his distress when he pleaded with us. We heard him begging, and we would not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us now. They had never forgotten the sound. But on that afternoon in the wilderness, they ate. And while they were eating, a caravan appeared on the road. Ishmaelite merchants traveling south from Gilead toward Egypt, their camels loaded with spices and balm and myrrh. It was Judah who spoke next. What do we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. He is our brother, our own flesh and blood. The others agreed. They pulled Joseph up from the pit. They handed him to the merchants. 20 pieces of silver. The caravan moved on, and Joseph disappeared into it, a boy in chains, walking toward a country he had never seen, leaving everything he had ever known behind him on that hillside. Reuben came back to the cistern when the others were gone. He had not been there for the sale, stepped away, perhaps already composing in his mind the story he would tell his father when he brought Joseph home safely. He approached the edge of the pit and looked down into the dark. Empty. He tore his clothes, the ancient gesture of grief and shock and helplessness. The boy is gone, he said to his brothers. What am I going to do now? But the transaction was complete and could not be reversed. The brothers had a problem that would not go away, their father. Jacob, who had sent Joseph out, who was at home, waiting for news, waiting for his son to walk through the door. They took the coat, that coat already stripped from Joseph's back and lying in the dirt, And they killed a goat and dipped the coat in the blood until it was soaked through. They carried it back to their father and laid it before him. "We found this," they said. "Please examine it. Is this your son's robe or not?" Jacob looked at it. There was no hesitation. "It is my son's robe," he said. "A ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." He tore his own clothes. He wrapped himself in sackcloth. He wept without stopping. His sons and his daughters gathered around him and tried to comfort him, and he refused every word, every gesture, every attempt to reduce his grief into something manageable. "No," he said, "I will go down to my grave mourning my son." He wept for days. He would weep for years. Meanwhile, Joseph was already in Egypt. Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the royal guard, had purchased him at market. The dreamer in the colorful coat, the beloved son, was now a slave in a foreign household, surrounded by a language he did not speak, in a world that had never heard the name of his God. He had done nothing wrong. He had simply walked down a road wearing his father's gift. There is a question that has haunted this story for thousands of years. Why? Why did God allow this to happen? The same God who had called Abraham out of Ur and made a covenant that would reshape the world, who had appeared to Isaac in the field, who had stood at the top of the ladder at Bethel and said to Jacob, "I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go. I will not leave you." Where was that presence when Joseph was stripped of his coat and thrown into a pit by his own brothers? Where was it when 20 pieces of silver changed hands and a caravan disappeared south toward Egypt? The text gives no direct answer. Instead, it does something more unsettling and more honest than explanation. It simply continues. The very next chapter opens in Egypt. Joseph is in Potiphar's house, a slave, a foreigner, a boy who had everything taken from him in a single afternoon. And the first sentence reads, "The Lord was with Joseph," not before the pit, not preventing the pit, not explaining the pit. After it, inside it, in Egypt, in the house of the man who purchased him. The promise does not protect Joseph from suffering. It enters the suffering alongside him and refuses to leave. And this uncomfortable, persistent faithfulness is the beating heart of the entire story of Joseph, and perhaps of the whole book of Genesis. His brothers will face a reckoning they cannot imagine yet. Joseph will face more before the story turns. False accusation, prison, forgotten years in the dark. But the dreamer is not finished. The story his brothers thought they were burying in a cistern in the wilderness. They were not ending it. They were sending it exactly where it needed to go, to Egypt, where everything was about to begin.